back, everybody. Let's get into 1 Samuel chapters 1 through 15. In the beginning, we start to enter into the era of kings. What the heck does that mean? As we read, they are the final two judges that we see appointed by God in the people of Israel. It's Eli and Samuel. Now, we're given a proper introduction to who Eli is, who he was, how he came into that position, his priestly lineage. We understand the tradition of him, his kids, and what his kids are doing. But so we start to kind of see a challenge within our hearts between these two men, between these two people that are going to emerge in the story. So we know that Eli has now ended up in this position because following the lineage since Aaron. With Samuel's story, we see that Hannah obviously is marked with humility, with sorrow. She has a servant's heart, and despair and woes just overwhelm her heart, and all hope is gone. So she turns to God and she leans to God and she cries out to him and prays to the point where you can't understand a word of what she's saying. Eli comes in and, like I said, immediately is surrounded by the world, knows what the world is going through, understands what people are going through in his community, and immediately puts that on her. Why are you so drunk? Why are you acting this way? When she stands up and advocates for herself, saying, no, like I'm struggling, like God knows my heart, that's not what I'm here for. Hannah gets a response from God because God hears all things, sees all things, and those that trust in him can continue to trust in his goodness and in his ways. While Samuel grows up in the house of Eli, the priest, we start witnessing that there's a really, really big distinction between Eli and Samuel. One thing is that Eli, he's done everything the way he needs to do. He's done all the stuff that he can do, and he's just kind of grown tired. He's exhausted. He's over it. And Samuel has faith. He has favor. God is moving in his life and reaching out to him as a kid. And, he's not being swayed into corruption like Eli's kids were. And we see that God starts to trust him with responsibility, starts to speak to him about things and speak to him about real specific secrets and things that are going to happen. And in the middle of all of this, God is raising up Samuel and moving in him, and he emerges as this prophet, this priest, and he's untouched by the corruption of the people. He's untouched by the religiousness of the people around him. He's actually rising up to become this inheritor of God's promise. And Eli was put there by tradition. Samuel was put there by divine intervention. God intervened and placed Samuel in the part of the story. As the story progresses, we know that Israel is just going to continue getting worse, and they do get worse to the point where in their unfaithfulness, in their just lack of integrity and humility and obedience, they lose the Ark of the Covenant. Now, that is a big deal because we already know everything that has happened before this point about the Ark of the Covenant, that big old tabernacle they're walking around with. That's the center of their camp. That's supposed to be that's the centerpiece of their entire faith and identity, being the people of God. And it gets taken from them because of their recklessness by their enemies. And we know, and we saw this story about Dagon and God, and how basically God broke down the statue. And that's really cool, that's fine, but we're not going to get into that. When they lose the Ark of the Covenant, they lose their identity. But yet God, even in the camp of the enemy, is humbling these people and humbling what they're doing and humbling their gods and humbling themselves to the point where they return the Ark of the Covenant. And Eli died in the middle of all this, and all this stuff is happening. But they get back the Ark of the Covenant, and God comes back to his people even though they had lost their way. And that's going to be very symbolic to what's going to happen soon. In chapters 9 through 15, we are introduced to Saul, the first king, the guy that appears impressive, dude, stands ahead above everyone else. He enters into leadership with strength, with public support, the backing of the people. And beneath the surface, we know that Saul is dealing with something towards the end of it. And there's this weakness that he's spiritually dependent. He only can prophesy after he's received prayer and is around other fellow prophets. His heart is not fully anchored in obedience to God, because he doubts a lot of things. He lacked a heart that was given unto God fully, and because of that, his reign begins and ends pretty quickly, or at least for the way they were reading it, but it was actually a total of 42 years. Saul was consistently just full of fear, insecurity, disobedience, and rather than trusting in God, he leans into his own understanding, into his own logic, into his own understanding of what he thinks the people would want, and that's how he governs, based off of the wants of the people and not what the desires of God are. That's eventually what ends up removing Saul from being king. It's because God doesn't want him to just surrender to every whim ask of the people. He wants him to be surrendered to God, and that the Israelites would follow suit and follow their king into surrendering to God. Very interesting enough, after we see, Saul, commit the sin and then basically get the kingdom taken away from him, we're given a couple chapters dedicated to his son, Jonathan. And Jonathan possesses better qualities of someone that is fully surrendered and fully given unto God and sold out for God. And we see that he's actually a better leader, where he even critiques his own father and says, if our people would have eaten these things, we would have conquered and killed even more of our enemies, and we would have done better. And then we see that he trusts God wholeheartedly, and it's almost the dynamic of Moses and Joshua, where Moses had the promise and all the instructions, all these things, but yet could not move forward because the heart had a moment of doubt, of resistance, of confliction. And then Joshua, in that instance, he was the one that God would carry the rest of the torch. With Jonathan, it's the same thing. He can't carry the torch anymore because his father has lost his true identity. He's lost the purpose of the covenant. By the end of the chapters, we obviously see that Saul failed. We see that he disobeys God. Samuel's mourning, and Israel is once again in a position of being unstable and without a clear direction. A verse to remember, 1 Samuel 15:22. Then Samuel said, "Is the Lord as delighted with burnt offerings and sacrifices as he would be with your obedience? To follow instructions is better than to sacrifice. To obey is better than sacrificing the fat of rams." It's better to be obedient than for you to give a bunch of sacrifices to God. I'll see you guys on the next one.